I'm Scott Harris, brand manager for Master's Choice, and today we're going to talk about 3 things about tar spot. So tar spot is becoming a very hot topic, and today we've actually brought in someone who knows a little bit more, actually quite a bit more about it than I do, Jeff Dilbeck with Rob Seco, and Jeff is going to talk to us about the 3 things. And so when we think about the 3 things with tar spot, Jeff, the first one that comes to mind that we want to take a look at is it's spreading fast. Talk to us about that.
It is, Scott. First of all, thanks for having me on. But tar spot's a disease that was first recognized in north central Illinois, northwest Indiana in 2015. And it can cause significant yield losses, 40 to 60 bushels in some really difficult situations where tar spot hits the field really hard. But the interesting thing about tar spot is since 2015, we've seen that disease spread throughout the entire Corn Belt. So just a few years ago in Nebraska, tar spot hasn't been seen. Today we have tar spot from eastern Nebraska, southeast South Dakota, parts of northeast Kansas, across the state of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then of course we get into Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. They've battled tar spot for a longer period of time, but we've seen very fast progression of this disease across the Corn Belt, so it's really important for growers to understand what the risks are and to manage those properly.
So if it's not in your area yet, it's probably coming, so be prepared. So one of the second things that we have for you to think about with tar spot is hybrid selection. Talk about that, Jeff.
Hybrid selection is really important because there is no cure for tar spot. There are fungicides that can help manage it, but there's no cure for tar spot. One of the best things a grower can do is look for hybrids that have good tar spot tolerance. So depending on what seed company you buy from, depending on what traits you desire for your farm, if you're in these tar spot areas, always ask your seed supplier or seed salesman which hybrids have the best tolerance towards tar spot, because that's the first step in battling the disease. There are some things you can do later in the season to try and help manage it, but the most important thing you can do to start the season and get off to a good start is to buy hybrids that have good tar spot tolerance, and your seedsman should be able to provide you that information. If they can't, I'd recommend you go to somebody else that knows that information, because it's really important to select the right hybrids that have that tar spot tolerance.
Absolutely. It's going to be crucial, it sounds like, because as you said, there's no cure, so we got to start strong, right? And so the last thing that we want to think about in the 3 things in relation to tar spot is this idea of full fungicide application, and the timing of that is so crucial. It's not just application, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Fungicide, there's really 2 components to your fungicide application. One is tar spot starts to develop throughout the year, particularly if you have wet conditions. So if you have rainy, wet conditions, a lot of very dewy nights, fog, whatever creates moisture on the leaves makes it a conducive or a conductor for that disease to spread. So it's very important, once you see tar spot, which they're very small black lesions on the leaf of the plant, once you see tar spot, you need to spray a fungicide. And when you spray a fungicide, there's 2 things to think about. One is select a fungicide that has multiple modes of action. The reason for that is if it has multiple modes of action, you have less chance to develop resistance to that fungicide. So multiple modes of action is important. And then secondly, timing. Normally, in the previous several years, the proper fungicide timing for tar spot has been between the VT or tassel stage and R3 stage. So that's the right time normally to apply that fungicide. But I always go back to the adage, if you see tar spot in your fields, go ahead and start spraying, because it can spread fast. Again, there's no cure for it, but you can manage it effectively with a fungicide that has multiple modes of action applied at the right time.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Jeff, so much. And so that's 3 things to consider when dealing with tar spot.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, buddy. Good job.